everybody, today is July 26th, and today we're going to talk about the price of Bitcoin. We're talk about the price recently having this really great breakout, and we're going to talk about whether this can continue higher or whether this will be a bull trap that will roll over and continue down lower. Before we begin, please read the disclaimer and you can pause this video as you read it. Okay, so obviously Bitcoin has been going sideways for a while now, right? For a couple months now, and this was from the top of the drawdown from April 15th, right? So last time that we discussed Bitcoin, we talked about how I've been basically saying over the last month how I hope that this was the mid-cycle correction bottom, right, and not this beginning of a bear market that went down lower. But Bitcoin kept finding weakness. It kept going down to 30,000, which is a strong support level, right, on this Fibonacci level that we tested and held back in January, which was our first correction this year, and of course over the last few months. And so the fact that we kept going down, I said that the more times we retest the support level, the more likely we are to break it. And we had this really nice bear trap over here where it broke and actually closed the day below, and that scared a lot of people. But bulls came in strong and hard and pushed it up. So this ended up being a bear trap, and we ended up reversing. But just in case, I did talk about ways to short Bitcoin to make money, just in case we broke 30,000 and continue down lower. But thankfully, the alternative scenario, which was what I hoped happened, and I talked about this in the end of my how to make money if Bitcoin crashes video, how I still believe that Bitcoin had bottomed and that we would reverse soon. And thankfully, it's happened, and don't have to really worry too much. However, we're not out of the woods yet, right? Because Bitcoin still needs to overtake 40,000, in my opinion. Because if you look, right, we've been in this downtrend, but we still have a higher, like a mid-cycle high over here. So we want to take that out, right? Go above and maybe come down, test a higher low, find resistance around this Fibonacci resistance level around 47,000, right? And then push up higher. So I think that's might be what's likely to happen. Of course, we have to see how this plays out, but there's still a possibility that this could roll over and continue down lower, right, and trick everybody. But the reason why I do think that this is a strong breakout that will continue up higher is that there are fundamental reasons, right? And we'll get into that soon, but let me just look at the technicals, right? We've been talking about how we were in a bearish divergence for a while where we had the oscillators, we had the price going up, but we also had the oscillators coming down, right? And of course the RSI coming down. So RSI and MACD coming down, while for a while now the price was going up, and this is a bearish divergence, right? And this was fulfilled when we had the huge crash down 50% to 30,000, right? But I also talked about how we were forming a possible bullish divergence, whereas the price kept slumping down. However, the oscillators were going up. So this showed that there was some accumulation happening from the smart money, right? And the retail was selling into the hands of the smart money. So see how the RSI was going up as the price was going down. However, I started getting worried because the price kept going down, and then eventually the RSI slumped over here instead of going up higher. So I was a bit worried that we would continue this downtrend, right, like that. But now that we've had a strong breakout, like over here, right, strong breakout, we've now put in a higher low and a higher high, and we probably will come down, have a short correction before continuing higher, and that will give us our higher low. And we already have a higher low over here, sorry. But I mean the first higher low that we've had since we've broken down this multi-month downtrend, right? And this is really important because this is a momentum indicator, right? And this is showing us where the momentum direction is likely to continue up higher or lower. So the fact that we've had not only a breakout above our downtrend, but a strong breakout, that's really good. But now we need to overtake 40,000, which is our intermediate high over here. And like I just said, we want to break above and we want to stay above. We might find some resistance over here between the 47,000, which is our Fibonacci resistance level. Now, this level is really important because we held support for a couple months, right, over here and over here, but we broke through the support over here on the Elon Musk news and the China ban news, right, and we fell and basically went down not only below this Fibonacci line, but also below our long-term moving average, which is this blue line, the 200-day simple moving average. And I've talked about in the past that how important it is for us to stay above the blue line, right? The 200-day simple moving average, which is the long-term bullish support line for Bitcoin. You can see from 2015 all the way to 2017, our last bull cycle, we never closed the day below the blue line. So the fact that we've been below the blue line for so long, for a couple months now, that was just a very bearish sign. So we're not out of the woods yet. What we need to see the price action follow through and push up higher above this blue line, right? Because until we get there, I'm not confident enough to say that that I'm 100% bullish, but I am a lot bullish than I was, of course, in the past, right? And I am still net long, so I'm happy to see this breakout, and yeah, so hope everybody's making a lot of money today, especially with my miners, right? The mining stocks are doing very well today. Okay, so let's get into the, so we talked about the daily technicals. Let's get into the fundamentals, right? Why is Bitcoin going up? So what happened was the cause of this initial collapse was due to two main factors. Was Elon Musk basically saying that he was going to temporarily suspend accepting Bitcoin as payment for Tesla cars. Because he felt that mining was not using renewable, sustainable energy sources, right? He thought that it was the process of mining Bitcoin, miners were using really dirty energy like coal mining, and he didn't like that. And another thing, I think another thing which caused the price to crash is that China started to crack down on mining Bitcoin and basically just trying to outright ban Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency, because they're trying to do their own currency, right? The digital yuan. And so they're basically cracking down on Bitcoin miners. So a lot of Bitcoin miners from China had to migrate to other countries and set up shop there. So what we saw was a huge plunge in the hash rate, right? And you can see here, the peak of the hash rate was in April 14th of this year, right? I talked about this in a previous video. And April 14th, that's when we saw the all-time high for Bitcoin. So it's not a coincidence that when the hash rate started to fall, Bitcoin's price started to fall, right? Because the hash rate is high when there's a lot of miners on the network processing transaction and keeping the network secure, right? So if the hash rate goes down, this network becomes less secure, and so the value of Bitcoin as a whole, right, is going to come down. Now the good thing is that we've bottomed here, at least in the short term to medium term, right? But what we want to see is a continuation of this trend higher, right? Because we're just basically going sideways now, but we do have higher lows in the hash rate. So we want to see this continue up higher, and if we see the hash rate recover and continue up higher, then logically it should follow that the price will continue up higher, right? And I talked about how like this is not necessarily a bad thing, because around 60% of Bitcoin hash rate was thought to be concentrated in China. So now that China is cracking down on miners, and those miners are basically forced to either shut down or move to other countries, now we're seeing a much more decentralized distribution, a much more even distribution among Bitcoin miners around the world. So it's a lot harder for miners to team up together, collude, and try to manipulate or attack the network, right? A 51% attack, if miners are spread out around the world. And so this is actually a good thing for the long term of Bitcoin, even though I talked about in the last video, this was short-term pain for the price, but in long term it's going to be overall good for not only Bitcoin as a whole, but for the price of Bitcoin as well. And of course, I talked about how the mining stocks have been benefiting from a rise, right? A rise in the price, even though Bitcoin has been coming down. And so, yeah, now that we're starting to see a recovery in the hash rate, I am expecting Bitcoin to continue up higher, follow through with that, right? Another thing that could be positive is that Elon Musk actually he had a conference call with Cathie Wood of ARK Invest, and also Jack Dorsey, who's the CEO of Twitter and also Cash App. And Jack Dorsey is really like, he loves Bitcoin, and he's been working a lot on Bitcoin projects and how he can integrate that more into Twitter and Cash App. He's actually working on a Bitcoin wallet right now. And Cathie Wood is somebody who's really pro Bitcoin, and she actually expects Bitcoin's price to hit $400 to even $500,000. And so these are all like really bullish Bitcoin people. So people who have like a lot of influence, right, on the price of Bitcoin. And so but everybody's eyes and ears were on Elon Musk, right? Because Elon Musk, of course, has a lot of influence, not only in Bitcoin, but in like other cryptocurrencies like Dogecoin, right? When Elon Musk speaks, Dogecoin moves. But people were talking about Bitcoin because, people were talking about what would Elon say about Bitcoin, because he actually holds Bitcoin in Tesla. But the interesting thing is that Elon actually he admitted that. So the good news is that Elon, he didn't say anything bad about Bitcoin. He basically he emphasized his stance that he still believes in Bitcoin and he wants Bitcoin to succeed. And he even said that he owns Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Dogecoin personally, right? And that he would likely resume accepting Bitcoin as payment for Tesla cars once he does more due diligence regarding renewable energy and Bitcoin mining. So this caused the price to just rip up higher, because now that there's much more optimism surrounding Elon Musk, not only his stance, like he also said, I'm sorry, I didn't say this, but he said he didn't sell any Bitcoin for Tesla, right? He wants to hold his Bitcoin. So people now know that Elon is probably not going to sell his Bitcoin. He's probably not going to dump on the market and cause the price to go down. That Elon Musk is very bullish on Bitcoin and will probably continue to support in one way or another Bitcoin and its infrastructure. And another thing that he revealed that we didn't know about was that SpaceX actually holds Bitcoin, right? And this is something that we didn't know about in the past because SpaceX is a private company, whereas Tesla is a public company, which has to disclose its holdings. So nobody knew that SpaceX held Bitcoin. So this is another bullish news, right? This just further solidifies that Elon Musk believes in Bitcoin, and he's not going to like pump and dump it and sell it, right? So just more good news. Yeah. And another possible catalyst this week is Amazon might be accepting Bitcoin as payment, and this is really so people have been speculating that because they recently had a job opening for a digital currency and blockchain product lead, that they might actually accept Bitcoin as payment, and this is going to be huge because Amazon is the biggest online retailer, right? It's worth over $1 trillion. It's massive. This would be huge, and so Amazon reports earnings on this Thursday. So if they do reveal that they're allowing Bitcoin as payment, this will likely cause a huge spike higher, right? So it's more positive news, technicals and fundamentals wise, right? And so yeah. So now that we got into the technicals and the fundamentals out of the way, let's look at some of the other other indicators. So fear and greed index still very low, right? 26, and we talked about how usually when the fear and greed index is this low, like back in March of last year during the pandemic, this is usually a good sign to buy, right? And because you don't want to buy when the fear and greed is high, because the risk reward is not as attractive, right? Now the risk reward of going long is a lot more attractive than it was a couple of months ago when we were a lot higher in the fear and greed. So there's a lot more room for the fear and greed index to move higher before it signals overbought, right? So right now it's still in fear, it's still oversold. So this could be a good buying opportunity if Bitcoin does end up recovering and going up a lot higher. Looking at our 2-year multiplier, I've said in the past how all the indicators that I'm going to go over the next couple minutes, I've said many times in my previous videos how everything tells me that we haven't hit a cycle top yet, that we're still in a mid-cycle correction. Nothing is signaling that we're overbought, right? If we look at the overbought signals for this indicator, 2013 we had two spikes right above this orange line, and it became shaded. And then when we hit the top, this signal every point in this shade above this line when it was shaded was a good opportunity to slowly sell, right? Obviously, this doesn't tell you exactly where the top is, but it does give you a good area to sell, right? And that's generally what you want to do. Like when you're trading, you don't want to try to perfectly time because nobody knows, even the best traders, don't know what the top or the bottom is going to be exactly. But so the best you can do is find levels in which you can buy and sell into and out of. And so this is a good indicator to give you an idea of where it could be a good time to accumulate below this green line over here, 2015, and of course over here, 2018 and early 2019, and of course during the pandemic. But even here, if you look, oh, by the way, this is the last time it said that this was a good time to sell your Bitcoin was in December of 2017, like perfectly around this area, right? Above the orange line, you would have made a lot of money if you bought down here and sold up here, right? Bought down here, and right now it hasn't even signaled a break above the orange line. So we're not even in oversold territory. We haven't even signaled. It hasn't given us the signal to sell Bitcoin yet. So, and as long as we keep moving sideways, these lines will continue to go higher, right? And right now, this upper boundary has just hit 100,000. And if we look at the past, we know that Bitcoin can go above the line, right? So if Bitcoin recovers, it goes up higher, this line will likely move up higher, maybe to 150, maybe 200,000. And when Bitcoin breaks above that line, overshoots, right? Like it has in the past, this thing could signal an exit maybe around 200 to 400,000. So there's still a lot of upside this year, right? This year is not over. There's still like 5 to 6 months left, right? Before December. So, and by the way, like for some reason, December tends to be a good time to sell. So we do look at that. That's like 5 to 6 months until December, right? And so there's still a lot of time for Bitcoin to go up a lot higher, right? We're still in the summer of this year. And so very optimistic looking forward, right? A pi cycle top indicator, same thing, cross signaling cross. You see this dotted line that tells you that Bitcoin is a good sell within 3 days, right? Within 3 days of this crossing, right? And we actually had a recent cross over here, and this actually was accurate this time. Within 3 days, the price plunged below. But notice how right now the green line is above this orange line, right? When the green line is above the orange line, that's generally a good time to buy, especially when the price goes up higher above the orange line. That's usually when you want to start buying, right? And the fact that so I do think that what we're going to see is something similar to 2013, which we have 2 peaks and 2 crosses, right? We have 2 crosses within a year. And so if this is the case, the fact that the bands are widening now, when this thing crosses above, when the price crosses above and continues up higher, that's going to give us more time for the bands to cross into bearish territory, which is when the orange line is above the green line, right? And so the fact that Bitcoin has been going sideways for a while now, giving these indicators time to reset, it just gives me more hope, or gives me more belief and conviction that we're going to see the price peak a lot higher than maybe 1 or even 200,000, right? By the end of this year. Puel multiplier, right? We actually, in this most recent correction, we went down into oversold territory, right? And we haven't even hit overbought territory, right? 2013, 2 spikes up into this red shaded area. 2017, a spike up. All of these were exit signals, right? We haven't even broken into the shaded area. So yeah, nothing about this says we're overbought yet and that we're entering a bear market, right? Everything tells me that we're still in a mid-cycle correction, sort of like back in middle of 2017, right? Golden ratio multiplier, of course, the exit signals were above this dotted line. We're touching the dotted line. We haven't even gotten high enough to even print dotted lines yet, right? We touched this purple line and then we basically corrected down into this orange shaded area, right? And right now we're basically holding above this orange shaded area and bouncing above. In bear markets, we tend to plunge below and stay below this orange line. So the fact that we're finding support around this orange area, bouncing, and will likely continue higher is a good thing. You know, another signal indicator that we are likely in a mid-cycle correction rather than a bear market, right? We have so much more room to go up higher. And just like the other indicators, right? The more we go sideways, the more time we go sideways and it takes for us to recover, the higher these bands are going to continue up, right? And so the eventual top signal, when it does come, is going to be a lot higher than it is now. And this is like at 100,000, so it's probably going to be above 100,000, right? By the end of this year. Stock to flow, our last indicator. Like, everybody knows the stock to flow. It's very, very popular. And basically, in the past, stock to flow has signal and exit. When it's above this red line, right? The red line is sort of like the average of where the price should be. So every time we've been above this red line, we eventually revert below it, right? We revert back to the mean. That means it's overbought, and then we go down below and it's oversold. Right now, we haven't even penetrated this line yet, right? We did over here and we did over here, right? We haven't even penetrated above this line yet. So there's nothing about this indicator tells us that we're oversold. And oh, by the way, if we look down here, and this is very interesting because this recent pullback, you can see that the green line over here came all the way down to like negative 0.99, right? But the last time we were down this low was actually around the same time, 4 years ago. Look at the date, July 17, 2017, right? Negative 94. Now look at this. Ooh, around the same time, July 20th, right? I think it is actually very similar. Let me just look at this. July 16th. This is here. Yeah, July 20th. Well, close enough, you know, like they're very close to each other. So back in July 2017, we were in a mid-cycle correction in the middle of this bull cycle going up higher, right? July 17. Let me just give you a big chart to look at. So July 17, we had this huge correction, right? And then this huge pullback, and everybody thought, oh, this whole trend is over. We're going to continue on lower, right? Over here. But we went up higher. And I think something similar is going to happen over here, where everybody thought this is the bear market's over, but we might actually continue up higher, right? Let me just move this. So the fact that this indicator is basically very similar to that what we had 4 years ago, right? When we had our last major bull rally in 2017, right? 4 years ago, July 17th, July 20th, right? Is that really a coincidence? I think that what this chart is telling us, or this indicator is telling us, is that we are in a mid-cycle correction, and this is not like the top, this cycle top, the bull cycle top, and then we're in a bear market, right? I do believe that all the indicators that we talked about, and I said this multiple times in previous videos, like has Bitcoin bottomed, or in that video, and even in my last video where I told people how to make money if Bitcoin does crash below 30,000 to 20,000, you know, at the end of that video, I went through some of these indicators. I think I went over the 2-year multiplier and the stock to flow. I still reiterated my point that I still think we're in a mid-cycle correction and not in a bear market, right? You know, all these indicators, nothing is telling us that we're overbought in this cycle. You know, if anything, we're oversold. You know, this mid-cycle correction has gone down way lower than it probably should have. And I think a lot of it is due to fundamentals like China and also Elon Musk. But those things can be reversed, right? Now that we're seeing more miners setting up shop around the world, the hash rate is going to recover soon. And Elon Musk will likely accept Bitcoin as payment for Tesla because a lot of the mining that was happening in China was very dirty. It was coal, right? But now that not only are miners going around the world, but there is more of an awareness that we should do Bitcoin mining in a much more renewable, sustainable way, right? The Bitcoin Mining Council was made in North America among different Bitcoin miners, and Elon Musk is a part of that. So he's going to oversee that, you know, along with Michael Saylor of MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy over here doing very well today, and they're going to make a commitment to make sure that Bitcoin does stay above 50% for its mining of using renewable, clean energy, right? Clean energy sources, and of course, Riot and Mara doing very well today, and yeah. So right now I do think that the fundamentals and the technicals are just setting up for a nice recovery back to all-time highs. Of course, we're going to have some resistance level, right? We already broke through this resistance level, which is our 50-day, the short-term resistance level. And now we're going to have some resistance around here. And this is definitely not a coincidence that this gold line, our 100-day, our midterm resistance level right now, 40,000, also the peak over here, previous peak over here, 40,000, right? Right. Sorry, this is not. Around this level, right? We're gonna hit that level soon. I do expect some resistance around this level. We might even pull back a little bit, but eventually I want us to break above, maybe pull back a little bit. And our next resistance level is at 47,000, which is our Fibonacci resistance level, right? That we used to hold support back here. We used to hold support back here, and we broke below. So that's going to be a long major resistance level. But once we break that, I think 50,000 is in the clear. And once we break 50,000, previous all-time high 65 is piece of cake in my opinion.